Welcome to the Finance Garage podcast, your go-to podcast for navigating the world of finance. I'm Jonathan, your financial guide, bringing the latest market trends, investment strategies, and financial news that matters to you. And by the way, I'm also going to share my other passion, which is cars.
At the SWU Group, we help everyday families achieve financial success. Our integrated services include financial planning, accounting, credit advisory, and estate planning. We're here to guide and support you every step of the way, from custom investment strategies to maximizing tax efficiency. We ensure your financial goals are met with peace of mind. Visit simonwu.com.au for more information.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Finance Garage. As always, Jonathan Wu here, Senior Financial Advisor and Principal at the SWU Group. Now, back in May, Treasurer Jim Chalmers stood up and delivered one of the biggest tax reform budgets Australia has seen in years. And within hours, social media exploded. People were saying, oh, negative gearing is dead, capital gains tax discount is gone, discretionary trusts are finished, property investors should sell immediately. Small businesses are under attack. But here's the thing to remember. Budgets don't actually, in of itself, change the law. The Parliament does. And over the past week, Parliament has finally passed the legislation. What's fascinating, I think what is most important, is to remember or take stock of what became law, because it isn't exactly what was announced on budget night. And there's obviously been a lot of media about, backing down and changes and deals with the Greens and things like this. And that's what I want to talk about today, because that's the part that's important, not just what was announced on May the 12th. Some of the measures, yes, stayed exactly the same, and some were softened, and then some exemptions were added, and some carve-outs were made for, startups and technology and things like that for the capital gains discount and turnover figures and things like that. And one of the biggest changes wasn't even in the budget at all. It was actually negotiated by the Greens during the Senate process. Because remember that you need to pass two houses of Parliament for any new law. You got to pass the House of Representatives, which is where the Prime Minister, or the Green Room, I like to call it. And then it's got to be debated in the Senate, which is the Red Room. Now, while the House of Representatives is controlled by Labor outright with 94 seats, the Senate, they don't actually fully control, and therefore they had to do a deal, and that's where the Greens came in. So today, what I want to talk about is separating the budget headlines from the budget reality. And the first thing, as I said, is, never make a decision based purely on budget night, right? That's what I tell my clients, because that's just what was announced. There's no point in doing anything until it passes law. Because the process actually looks like this. You've got budget night, then you've got draft legislation, it's got to go through Parliament, then it's got to negotiate through the Senate, then royal assent, and only then it becomes law. This year is a perfect example. As I said, Labor controls the House of Reps, doesn't control the Senate. And that meant if it wanted these reforms passed, it needed support independent of its own party. And ultimately, this year, that support came from the Greens. And whenever there's negotiation, then there are compromises, and that's exactly what happened here. So let's first look at what stayed the same. Capital gains tax. The headline reform survived. So from July 1, 2027, the long-standing 50% CGT discount will be replaced. Instead, investors will receive inflation indexation on their cost base, together with a minimum 30% tax on capital gains. Now, importantly, the reforms only apply to gains that accrue after the 1st of July 2027, so the existing gains are protected. Now, here's something many commentators actually overlooked. The government isn't saying every investor pays more tax. Their argument is that people should only pay tax on their real gain after inflation. Whether that actually results in lower tax obviously depends on your circumstances, because if inflation is high, then obviously your index cost base becomes larger, and vice versa. If your inflation is low, more of your gain becomes taxable. Time will ultimately tell whether the new system is fairer or simply more complicated. The second major change, which didn't change since budget night, was negative gearing. They stayed the course on this policy. And so established or existing residential properties purchased after budget night lose access to traditional negative gearing from the 1st of July 2027. Instead, future rental losses become quarantined and can only offset rental income or future capital gains. New builds, the rules don't change. Existing owners remain grandfathered. So despite all the headlines, if you already own an investment property, nothing changes. It's only new investments that are affected. Now, some people have said, "Oh, okay, after budget night, I'll go out and buy, an existing property to do negative gearing because it doesn't affect me." Well, yes, it does. It affects you from 1st of July 2027. You can buy one after budget night. You can still negatively gear for FY27, but you can't thereafter. And that's where you're going to have to take into account that change. So those two measures passed. And so the question is, what changed or what was altered? This is where the consultation actually mattered. After budget, there was enormous backlash from business groups, particularly around startups. Many founders argued the original rules, which would discourage innovation. And I've recorded an episode on this about a week ago, so go back into the show and you can find that one, why I think that there is a risk of entrepreneurial flight and brain drain in Australia. Because following the consultation from business backlash, the government introduced additional concessions on the CGT, especially with small businesses retaining broader access to CGT concessions based on certain turnover levels. Startup founders also received targeted carve-outs, and to be fair, that's actually how good policy should work. Government proposes something, industry responds, mounts arguments as to why it should change, and the government adjusts and pivots. Now, whether you agree with the reforms or not, it's better than refusing to listen altogether. Then there's the issue about discretionary trusts. Originally, many people feared virtually every type of family trust would be caught, and the legislation still introduces a 30% minimum tax from the 1st of July 2028. But exemptions remain for a number of trust types, including primary production and several specialist trust structures, as well as testamentary trusts, which are set up for the purposes of succession planning, genuine succession planning. There's also 3 years of rollover relief to allow restructuring if you want to restructure your trust to still take advantage of not having to pay a flat 30% income tax at the trust level. And so advisors like us have time to speak to our clients and our business owners to discover and discuss what is the best thing to do. So this isn't something that people need to panic about tomorrow morning, but it's something that you should start a conversation with your advisor about.
Ready to take the first step in investing, or just looking to continue growing your wealth without being inundated with financial information? With SWU Online Invest, we offer a range of expertly managed portfolios designed to match your investment needs. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just getting started, know that we will work tirelessly to ensure your investments are strategically positioned to maximize your goals. Visit swuonlineinvest.com.au today.
Now, the biggest surprise, though, wasn't in the budget night papers, and this is the ban on SMSF borrowing. And this is where Parliament changed the story. Labor needed the Greens to support them in the Senate to pass this group of laws, or the budget in its entirety. And the Greens said, "Hey, hold on a minute, we've got one extra condition." They wanted to stop new limited recourse borrowing arrangements, otherwise known as LRBAs, for residential property inside self-managed super funds, and Labor agreed. Okay, so stopping self-managed super funds from buying investment property and borrowing money, that has been a bugbear of mine as well. And so this amendment became part of the final legislation. I think that's one of the most fascinating political stories of this budget. Because if you watched Budget Night, you never heard it mentioned. And here we are today, and that's law that's formed part of the final package. Obviously, existing LRBAs are grandfathered, and SMSFs can still buy residential property using existing cash. They just can't borrow to do it. And commercial property borrowing isn't affected under current amendment. But new residential property borrowing through LRBAs will no longer be available. And whether you agree or disagree with the policy, it's an excellent reminder that governments don't always get the final say. Parliament does, and this is a good example of negotiation. So what should investors take away from all of this? Firstly, don't react to headlines. While this budget was more exciting with inverted commas compared to many years that I've been doing this for over 20 years, it's a budget that extended the conversation for more than a month, mainly out of sheer confusion by the Australian public. But I tell my clients, don't react to headlines. We've seen this time and time again. Budget night creates the panic, then the consultation happens, then the negotiations happen, then amendments happen, and secondly, planning is now more important than ever. If you own discretionary trusts, you should review them. If you're considering future investment properties, understand the new negative gearing rules. If you're looking at selling assets after 2027, understand the new CGT regime before making decisions. And if you've been considering using an SMSF to borrow for residential property, that option is effectively disappearing because of a Senate amendment negotiated with the Greens. And if there's one final lesson from this budget, it's this. Australia's tax system wasn't changed on budget night, it was changed over the following 6 weeks. Through the consultation, through negotiation, and through the amendments, and through Parliament doing exactly what it's designed to do. Any investors, business owners, and taxpayers, right? Your job isn't to read political headlines, it's to understand the final legislation and how it impacts you. Because that's what we actually do as advisors and determines the decisions and the advice that we provide our client. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, as always, please subscribe, leave a review, share it with someone who's trying to still work out what actually changed in this year's federal budget. And as always, please listen to the disclaimer at the end of the episode, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.
This podcast is not financial product advice and is intended to provide information only. It does not take into account the investment objectives, financial situation, or needs of any person. You should assess whether the information is appropriate for you and consider talking to a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Any investment examples are for illustrative purposes only. The information is taken from sources which are believed to be accurate, but Simon Wu, Jonathan Wu, SWU Financial Planning, and Personal Financial Services Limited accept no liability of any kind to any person who relies on the information contained in the podcast. Unless expressly stated, none of the information should be taken as a recommendation. For more information, please visit www.simonwu.com.au.